you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, for hosting this amazing series. And thank you guys for that electrifying work. This is why they won. But the Whiting Awards have been around for more than 30 years and were a prize for emerging writers, which sounds preposterous to call these guys emerging. They're incredibly accomplished. But the goal of the prize is to catch people at the beginning of their careers when they're just going out into the world and doing this amazing work. And our process is unique in that nominators work secretly to tell us who the most exciting writers are working in the country today. We read them very closely over the course of a year, and our judges work anonymously. So it's all sort of veiled from the winners themselves, and the first they hear from us is when we call them up and they've won. And the idea of catching them this early is to enable them to do really exciting, bold work and to launch them into the world. And some of our winners have gone on to win Pulitzer Prizes, National Book Awards, and garner important fellowships. So just keep an eye out year on year for the 10 winners every year. We give prizes in fiction, poetry, drama, and nonfiction, and they're just brilliant. So thank you again, Paul, for hosting this Poetry Under the Trees, and thank you guys.
Is Daniel here? Oh, you made it. All right, we have one more poet. Thank goodness, huh? Hang on, Daniel. I'll bring you up in a second. All right. Daniel Schoenebeck. He has a new book. It's called Trebuchet. I found this very flattering description of Daniel's book. Trebuchet is the much anticipated follow-up to his debut book of poems called American Barricade, which was named one of 2014's 10 best books of poetry by poets and writers, and hailed as, and this is a quote, groundbreaking first book that stands to influence its author's generation, and that's from the Boston Review. The poems in Trebuchet, which takes its name from the catapult used to break down walls and barriers during medieval wars, are at once combative and incendiary, tackling contemporary politics in a more direct, personal way than Schoenebeck ever has before. Addressing, and this is a long list, gun violence, poverty, fascism, surveillance, white privilege, the protest movement, censorship, American history, torture, and net neutrality. Schoenebeck's writing, that's a lot, okay, in that book. Congratulations. Schoenebeck's writing is marked by a unique use of slang and jargon, manipulation of white space, and precise rhythm on the page. His poems have been praised by many critics for their momentum, obsession, weird language, and the precision of their enjambments and end-stop lines. Though American Barricade and Trebuchet speak to one another and map an evolving poetics, Schoenebeck's second collection is a departure from the aesthetics and obsessions that defined his first, which was invested in the politics of family dynamics and the insistence in this country that obtaining power and wealth, which is invested in the politics of family dynamics and insistence in this country on obtaining power and wealth. If American Barricade was the book that wanted to kick the door open, Trebuchet is the book that wants to tear the door off its hinges. Close quote. Please welcome Daniel Schoenebeck.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you to Nancy as well. And sorry I filed in a little late, and thank you to Simone and Philip. I was actually able to file up and catch both of your sets, so I caught them from afar in the back and stuff. And, this is a really special reading because it's the last one I'm going to do in New York for like 8 months. I'm going to Germany for a little while, and two of my favorite poets. So it's just an honor to be here in the middle of one of my favorite parks. Yeah, I'm just going to read from this book, which is called Trebuchet. It's here. I thought I'd start with a poem that's sort of a translation, slightly in collaboration with the translator Guy Davenport, of this 7th century BC warrior poet named Archilochos, who was a spearsman and killed in service of the state, but also wrote poems critical of the state, and that dynamic, probably for pretty obvious reasons, seems pretty fraught at the moment. There's some sort of weird German words in here. Kriegspiel is like a German form of chess, in which you play chess in 2 different rooms from your opponent and can't see the moves they make, you just hear them announced. I think that's Archilochos. There's a sergeant who bends the notes to his life on a kettle drum. What he calls love, I call Kriegspiel. Gah! I've tasted this kind of workmanship with the klaxons, his showmanship under Klieg lights. His name, I think, should be spelled like a criminal broke through the wall of it. A name like Sergeant Petraeus, a word which means literally a country that can't quit pissing out kidney stones. Or don't you wish his Großmutter was possessed of the balls to name him something like, Here Come the Lions, and she'd call out his name like his name's an X-rated splatter film, and she'd drip paint his name on the terra incognita, wherever her grandson's pink flag was staked, I said staked, on his map of the world circa 1510. Meanwhile, I work 8 jobs, gah, I've no leave, 0 maternity, it's with poetry and poetry alone I bring down the state. And it's me, not him, nor him, who'll make this country famous by dying here. With my weapon, I breaded my family. Blotto, I slept with my weapon. Weapon, I out-berserked the berserkers with gah. I knelt inside your war, and I chugged. But I won't tar the Republic's children, not for all the unspent drachma and their trust funds. Gah, no, I won't confetti their graves, not when their children tell me their unborn head lice, their forthcoming handfuls of dandruff are worth more than my spear. Because Republicans are liberals too, I'm afraid, and there's no such thing as a trust fund kid on the battlefield. Now all this country has left in common with me, this jawbone of an ass. Gah, this country that lived how I lived, and it'll die how I'll die, with my tongue in your mouth like a buck in the swear jar. And yes, I've heard them calling me names like ancient latrine, full of the kind of mealy, malnourished shit they say that's unfit for labor, unless labor means landing your name on the government watch list. And pretty soon, you forget words like warrior, and they'll have to start digging me up and calling me sergeant. And then dollar after dollar after dollar would you listen to me cuss. This book was written while Barack Obama was president, but it came out 6 days after the 2016 election, so it has sort of had 2 lives. And I sort of want to echo something that someone came up to me and said recently, where they were like, yes, books under presidents we sort of all agreed that we really liked, even though they were somewhat problematic. There should still be protest books written at all times, regardless of whether or not you absolutely deplore the person in office or sort of really like the person in office, for lack of a better word. And so this poem was sort of written during the Occupy movement down in Zuccotti Park, and it was in collaboration with a philosopher/poet named Travis Mayer. It's called Russets. We planted potatoes because potatoes go blind. Potatoes lose skin when they stew in the crop. Scalped her, we pulled her hair, we said, Mother, mother, your raw Irish skull, why is it so full of weeds? And plucking a lash from her face, Mother, your face, why did Father's Dutch tulips still grow here? But now we meet on the bridge and talk crops. We meet like a screw meets a ratchet brace. The bankers, they tell us money's none of our business. The brokers, they want us to sleep in the breakers. The police, when they read us the rights to our poem, they forget who barricades who with a sawhorse. Will you beat me to death with Abraham's beard, officer? Should we wait for politicos to throw us a war, and we'll all go invisible and click not attending? And when you drive us away in white bullhorns, should we buy ham and rot gut in the capital city? Should we trade our shit dirt potatoes, skin and all? Should we trade her tulips and lashes, trade mother, and falter before the banks and demand a meal? We demand ham, goddammit, and not glazed, neither. We hate potatoes. History every day, it's potatoes. And this Sunday, like blight in your sculpture garden, we'll dress our table in your Warhawk shadow. How do we look, Manhattan, with our throats swole shut? No peasant bread for this boy, no table crumbs for that boy, but grinding our flint corn on the curb beneath your boot and tossing the flour on the heap the Greeks left us. We boil our soup for Our Lady of refusing to die ugly. We bake our bread for our Lord of kissing a cop on the mouth. Already I heard the newscaster call it the American Fall. And I too would sort of like to plummet and still be a nationalist. But tomorrow when I sew my Madison Ave face back on, and Frank Mortimer, my boss, he calls for the language budget, he'll tell me that money is how well you talk crops. And his face, that's a potato skin, and it stews in the crock too. Have you finished, he asks me, my language budget? Have you got my quote? Have you tendered your letter? Brooklyn Bridge, you look good, stuck in his throat like the tusk of a mammoth, slow basting in soot. Mortimer, I wonder how many times, like my bank card, will the sky be denied? Mortimer, how many russets will be born and go blind before the country itself is potash? Your deadline is coming, he says, and guns me down with his finger. Fall, it comes like a barricade, and you owe me my language.